Andy Farrell has got some proper decisions to make, hasn't he? I mean, that's stating the bleeding obvious. He's picking his British and Irish Lions squad tomorrow as I record this. Of course, he's got big decisions to make. But what I mean is, it's only when you come to consider what the squad will be, you realise just how many and how high quality and potentially important number of players there are currently sidelined with injury. And when you're assembling a squad, bearing in mind resources are finite, you have to consider, if you're going to take someone that maybe hasn't played for a while, what is the quality of the other players in that position like? How many potentially injured or returning players can you accommodate and get back to fitness during a British and Irish Lions tour? Now, I'm sure Andy Farrell will have been in constant contact with medical staff at clubs and national teams, but I thought it'd be quite useful just to run through the currently injured players, what their injury is, when they're expected to return, and it's only then you get a real picture of just where some of the key decisions might be. And already, having yesterday picked my British and Irish Lions squad, there's already, I think, decisions I would make differently when you look at it with this bird's eye view. So I'm going to run through it. Let me know your thoughts in the comments down below. And again, I have tried my best to find out the accurate information on the injuries and the returns, but it's quite difficult in some cases. I mean, shock horror, rugby not very good at communicating to its fans exactly what's going on. Colour me surprised. But so if you've heard anything that updates it, let me and let everyone else know in the comments what you know. So let's start with the most significant injury. Caelan Doris, which happened at the weekend in that game between Leinster and Northampton. Now, it's a shoulder injury. What we knew from Leinster's statement at the weekend was that Caelan Doris will undergo a procedure. Now, what's thought to be the case, having had some medical people give me comments and spoken to people that I know, it will be a kind of exploratory look. They might go in with a little keyhole, have a look around, see what the actual issue is, to be able to give it a proper prognosis, whether extra surgery is needed or whether rehab will do the trick. It's interesting that Jacques Nienaber on Monday said, and I quote, "Fingers crossed, things aren't as bad as we think. My gut, and it's only my gut, says it might be serious." Now, Jacques Nienaber does have a physiotherapy background, so he kind of knows a little bit about what he's talking about more than the average coach. But nonetheless, I think Jacques Nienaber was coming at that from the point of view of Caelan Doris. He doesn't come off the field lightly. So I think that might have been weighing on his mind when he said that. Now, there's lots of rumours flying around that it's 4 to 5 months that he's going to be out for. I'm not going to go there with any statements because I just don't know. I hope it isn't too bad. We're going to find out. But if he is unavailable, well, that throws the whole balance of back row selection into doubt. I'll return to the back row and the forwards in general, but I just want to go through some of the highest profile injuries first. The next one, Scotland's captain Sione Tuipulotu, who got injured in January, bit of a freak pectoral injury, and he has not played since. However, he is back in training with Glasgow Warriors. No exact date on when he will return to play, but it could well be in the next round of URC games. That would be a massive boost for Sione Tuipulotu. I think if he is remotely fit, he is of a sufficient calibre that you can let him get himself returned to fitness on the tour. And a part of that, and this is where the decisions come in, a part of that is because the overall quality of the centres isn't as high as other positions. So there are some positions where where an injury doesn't really affect things too much. Sione Tuipulotu is good enough. The centres are not good enough that you take him if he's remotely fit. Big part of that is the fact that Ollie Lawrence was injured. So there we go. As for Duhan van der Merwe, 6 weeks since he went down in that URC game. It was against Dragons. It's an ankle injury. Expected return at the end of May, meaning he may well miss the rest of the season for Edinburgh, but if selected, would be available. It would have been 2.5 months since his last game. I think you could cope with that. The interesting thing is, and this is what will be going through Andy Farrell's mind, I'm sure, is there's a lot of players, potential players in the outside backs who are currently or recently coming back or have had an injury. And you can't take all of these injured players. This is where this is where it could be potentially a bit of a shift. And one of those players, Blair Kinghorn. Now, he's a knee injury, which he got against Castres in Toulouse's last top 14 game a couple of weeks ago. His expected return is not too far away. A few weeks is how they've put it. So I think Blair Kinghorn's going to be fine for the tour. I guess the thing is, if Andy Farrell's got any question mark over that, then he might start thinking about his other 50-50 calls, like Duhan van der Merwe, who I think will probably get on the tour as well. But would the fact, if he picks Duhan van der Merwe and Blair Kinghorn, would that have an impact on players like Mac Hansen, who has not played in a month? The return that was given in the most recent update was that his ankle injury, he'll be returning to play in approximately, and this was the quote, approximately 5 weeks. So basically, not going to make the end of the season, but would be available for a Lions tour. But again, you start to build a picture. Duhan van der Merwe's in a similar position as Mac Hansen is. Can you take both of them, not having played for a little while and returning from both of them from ankle injuries? I'm not so sure. So I also think the injury is going to rule out George Furbank. He broke his arm in that win against the Bulls back in December. He had a plate put in his arm. He did return to play for Northampton a few weeks ago, but was in such excruciating pain he had to leave the field again. So I think there's some complications with his broken arm. Unfortunately, I think he is cooked on this one. And the other really interesting one, and again, it's worth putting, as they're all wingers, Duhan van der Merwe, Mac Hansen and Emmanuel Feyi-Waboso all in the same pot, because they're all injured, will be undercooked in terms of match fitness, but all potential Lions tourists if they were fit. Emmanuel Feyi-Waboso had shoulder surgery in February. I mean, he actually dislocated his shoulder. No, was it this shoulder dislocation? He injured his shoulder in December. And at that time, I think England, and Exeter Chiefs are quite unhappy about this, England persuaded him not to get surgery then, and, you know, that they could rehab it and he would be available for the Six Nations then. But then he had to end up getting the surgery anyway in February. That decision to wait a couple of months could cost him his British and Irish Lions spot, which I've no doubt he would have been absolutely nailed on to get. Now, when he had his surgery in the middle of February, he was told that his recovery would be around 12 to 14 weeks. It's been 11 weeks since then. So Emmanuel Feyi-Waboso could be just a few weeks from a return. But with a shoulder and with surgery, you don't know how that's going to respond to playing again. He's got to get back up into full training. You have to be able to go when the British and Irish Lions come. And I don't know. You could accommodate Emmanuel Feyi-Waboso if you had confidence in everyone else. You could accommodate Mac Hansen or Duhan van der Merwe if you had confidence in anyone else. Could you accommodate all three of those in your squad, or even two of them? I think that will be one of the things which weighs on Andy Farrell's mind. The other factor to consider, which is relevant when talking about injuries, is apparently and I got this from a couple of comments on the channel, so thank you so much for that. I haven't checked whether it's true or not, but let's just assume it's true. The average number of replacement players in British and Irish Lions tours due to injury is 9. So a lot of these guys who are coming back from injury now might not make the squad initially, but could be called up, by which time they've had some chance to get back and fit, hit a tackle bag a few times. And Emmanuel Feyi-Waboso may well be a guy that is on that list. So yeah, it builds a picture in the back three. Duhan van der Merwe, Blair Kinghorn, Mac Hansen, George Furbank, Emmanuel Feyi-Waboso, all would have been contenders, all with a certain strength question marks next to their name. In the backs as well, and I guess Sione Tuipulotu being one centre who's coming back from injury. Hugh Jones, he was injured a few weeks ago against Connacht. No, in fact, it wasn't against Connacht, was it? It was in the final game of the Six Nations, wasn't it, against France? Hugh Jones has not played since then, so about 6 weeks since he's played. Thought to be back in training and not too serious. He's been so good for Scotland, arguably Scotland's best player in the last year. I would make that argument, and arguably the best centre in Britain and Ireland in the last year. And I would also make that argument as well. So he's going. And yeah, that's it. Hugh Jones is going, and a likely test starter if fit and available. That battle with him and Gary Ringrose, assuming it's the two of them, is going to be really interesting. That is the backs, so far as I know. Let me know if there's anyone else I've missed. Let's move on to the forwards. Already mentioned Caelan Doris at the start. Matt Fagerson, his Lions chances are done. Unfortunately, he won't return until the summer at best. He got injured in that quarter-final of the Champions Cup against Leinster. His ankle was the injury. He left on a I can't think of what the word is. One of those little golf cart things. You know what I'm saying? Anyway, he left on a stretcher. There we go. That's the word I was looking for. And he is out. So a massive shame because I think Matt Fagerson is exactly an Andy Farrell type of player. A big, boshing 6. The versatility, being able to play at number 8, I think would have really added to his case as well. But he's out. An opportunity for someone else. Maybe the injury for Caelan Doris is significant for Jack Dempsey if Doris is unavailable. He has not played since round 4 of the Six Nations, a recurrence of an old injury. He'd had an operation before. I think it was his hamstring. Again, information on the internet is not totally clear, so that could be an inaccurate injury that I've cited there. But they said at the time, we hope it's 4 to 6 weeks, which would be around now. So Jack Dempsey hopefully is going to come back for Glasgow soon. I'm sure Andy Farrell will know if he's fit or not. If Caelan Doris is out, he has a very good chance of travelling with the British and Irish Lions. And the story surrounding him, former Australia international, cast aside, would be awesome from his perspective. And a couple of injuries at lock. Scott Cummings, technically, he's back now. He played 20 minutes and came through that game for Glasgow Warriors. He was injured in the pool stages of the Champions Cup. But he's back. That's a massive boost. And you know what? He could get himself on the plane. Genuinely, he was so good. And I thought Scott Cummings was in contention to go. The injury maybe knocked him off my radar a little bit, but he is back. George Martin, who I did select in my squad, with the caveat that I said unlikely to be fit, so probably nudge him straight back out. His last game was against France in the Six Nations. He's out for the rest of the season for Leicester, and Michael Checker said that even if Leicester make the playoffs, which they probably will, he's not expecting George Martin to be available. So I think he said you can draw a line through him for the rest of the season. However, and the rest of the season takes you to the 14th of June, 1 week before the British and Irish Lions' first game. So as much as I picked him in my squad yesterday, I think he is out. So there you go. Just goes to show it's only when you sort of step back, get all the information, you build a little bit of a picture. So there are changes that I would make to my squad. It is going to be fascinating to see how that factors in to Andy Farrell's decision-making. If I've got any facts incorrect, if there's any more injuries I haven't accounted for, please let me know in the comments and help everyone out. And a reminder, I will have a live stream, which is tomorrow, 1:45, 15 minutes before the programme begins, building up to the Lions squad announcement, and then let's react together to the squad, the surprises, and pick the bones out of that particular carcass, which Andy Farrell is going to deliver us for us. I'm mixing my metaphors here, but you get the point. So I'll see you on the channel tomorrow, and I'll put the link in the description below as well. If you want to win your spot on the British and Irish Lions tour to Australia, then get stuck in down below with my friends at Genting Casino. They are giving you a chance to be at the second and third tests in Melbourne and Sydney with flights, with accommodation, with entertainment taken care of. A trip of a lifetime. So get stuck in. I'll see you on the next one.